Welcome to SCAS 2023. Thank you so much for coming. It's great to see so many people here. Just by a show of whoop, who's been to SCAS before? Thank you, old-timers, for coming back for more. And by a show of bigger whoop, who are the first-timers? You are so welcome. My name's Gareth Clegg. I run the Resuscitation Research Group at the University of Edinburgh and I'm part of the team that have organised SCAS. And I just have a few introductory comments for you before we get going. So first of all, the boring stuff. If you bought a car, please register it with reception. They will charge you £5 to park here today, unfortunately. But if you haven't registered, then nip out during coffee and do that. Thank you. There are no planned fire alarms. If the fire alarm goes off, please leave. Just follow the signs to the exits and all should be well. Far fewer people die every year in Scotland from fire than they do from cardiac arrest, but it does happen. Okay. Excellent. So now that's out of the way. Let me just try and, particularly for you guys, the first timers, give you some idea of what SCAS is all about. Because the Scottish Cardiac Arrest Symposium is for three groups of people. Firstly, it's for you. It's for all of the people who care deeply about outcomes after out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. And in this room, I know there are many of you who are frontline ambulance service workers, paramedics, technicians, folk who are doing this day in, day out. Many of you work in a hospital and have a commitment to improving outcomes after cardiac arrest. There are folk here from Scottish Government who work out how to make difficult decisions about spending the money. There are lots of folk from third sector organisations who organise training and community initiatives. There are folk from industry who develop the stuff and sell us the stuff that help us do our jobs better. And let me just take a quick sidebar there to thank the sponsors of today's event. SCAS is free, and it's always been free in all the years we've done it, and we want to keep it that way. But in order to do that, we need the help of sponsors, industry sponsors who are committed to putting on this event for you. So when you go out there into the hall, you'll see we've got Zoll, Platinum sponsor. We've got Mindray, we've got Comed, we've got WellMed, we've got Ortus, we've got, I'm going to forget somebody here, I realize. We've got Kalis, we've got Ledal, we've got Corpulse. Is there anybody else I've forgotten? Gettinger. How could I forget Gettinger? Who are going to be responsible for all the mess later on today. Please go interact with them, see what they've got. They've brought their toys to show you, and it makes them much more likely to fund this next time if you do that. So firstly, this symposium is for you. It's to encourage you, to give you some new ideas, to give you some things to think about. We want you to leave here ready to go and do, daring do, and to save more lives, have more fun, and be even more awesome than you already are. But secondly, this symposium is also for them. So it's for you, but it's also for them. And by them, I mean the people out there who've never heard of cardiac arrest, never heard of the Scottish Cardiac Arrest Symposium. They don't know anything about ambulances and IV access and adrenaline and defibrillation. But they are the 3,500 people a year who will have a sudden out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. And when that happens, their life will be in the balance. And within a few minutes, the die will be cast as to whether they survive and recover to go home to their families or whether they die. And this symposium is also for that group of people. But thirdly, this symposium this year is for us. And what do I mean by us? Well, this is what we used to think the chain of survival was all about. It started here with a call for help, and it ended there with post-resuscitation care in a hospital. And when we developed the first cardiac arrest strategy for Scotland in 2015, we thought that's not enough. We need to broaden our vision of what cardiac arrest is, and we extended the chain of survival to include community readiness here and aftercare there at the end. And as we come now to 2023, I think that this is still wrong. We need to go further than that, because the chain of survival doesn't really have a beginning and an end, doesn't really have a start and a finish. There aren't really people who are in and people who are out. It's more of a survival cycle. Because when you think about it, communities need to be ready. They need to have thought about CPR, they need to have thought about defibrillation, and you'll hear about that today. Many of you are involved in that. So that when disaster strikes, someone will call for help and be willing to do bystander CPR and be willing to defibrillate if there's one available. And then there will be people who turn up in ambulances from these communities to take patients to the hospitals within the communities where nurses and physios and doctors and porters and dietitians and all sorts of people will look after them until they're ready to go back into the community. You can look after them, make space for them, help them make sense of what's just happened to them, and get ready to help the next person. And it's only if I think of the chain of survival as involving all of us and the communities we live in, the people that we go to work with, the people who are in our families, the people who are our kids and our grandparents and our parents and brothers and sisters, aunties and uncles, that actually this becomes a survival cycle. And that, I think, is how we get our shift together. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker today. And that's someone who needs very little introduction in this particular audience. So, Professor Jason Leach, CBE, otherwise known as that guy off the telly, who became a household face and name during the COVID pandemic, dispensing calm and common sense on almost a daily basis on these briefings from the Scottish Government. Jason has a glittering CV that I'm not going to try and butcher here, but one thing I do want to say that he's a very good friend of the cardiac arrest strategy. Jason chairs the reference group, the group responsible in Scottish Government for overseeing the implementation of the strategy, for overseeing the improvement in outcomes for patients with cardiac arrest. And we're very grateful Jason's made the time to come and share some wit and wisdom with us today. So thanks very much, Jason.